Welcome to Fireball Island. This game comes from an era when Monopoly was the gold standard for board games, and when three-dimensional plastic components were nigh unheard of. So it's no surprise that it became a beloved classic, using design elements that had never been seen before. The nostalgia was so strong that when Restoration Games launched a reboot on Kickstarter in 2018, it was fully funded within the first hour and raised over $2.5 million. Today, we're playing the original 1986 game in Tabletop Simulator, using a workshop mod from Carambola, whose scripting and 3D models are what make it possible to play this without dropping $130 plus on eBay. Or settling for the 2018 Restoration Games version, which is probably a significantly better playing experience, but I digress. You and your competitors are archaeologists who have come to the island to excavate a precious jewel from the ancient idol of VUL-KAR atop the mountain. This island is full of dangerous traps, though, as well as up to 3 other archaeologists racing you to the prize. We're gonna skip setup because you probably don't have a physical copy of this game anyway, and if you do, you can read the instructions. In Tabletop Simulator, the mod takes care of it all for us. Each player will start with 1 card in their hand, which you'll keep secret from your opponents, and their character mini on the start space, Dead Man's Plateau. Roll the die to see who goes first, and play proceeds clockwise around the table from there. In classic 80s board game fashion, your turn consists of rolling the die and moving your character that many spaces along the trail. Pretty simple. If you come to a fork in the road when moving, you can choose which path to take. You can also move in any direction, as long as movement doesn't take you onto the same space more than once during a single move. When moving, every space, whether occupied or not, counts. But if you land on a space someone else is already standing in, end your movement in the next open space. If you roll a 1, instead of moving your character mini, you roll a fireball. There are 4 fireballs stationed along pathways around the island, plus 1 inside the mouth of the VUL-KAR idol. Take a look at the path along which these fireballs will travel if you were to set it in motion. Note that the VUL-KAR idol can turn to face any of 5 paths. When you have to roll a fireball, if such an option exists, you have to roll one that will hit at least 1 character mini. If all the other players' minis are safe, but yours isn't, that means you have to roll a fireball to hit yourself. Push, don't flick the fireball, just enough to set it in motion, and as soon as it stops moving, return it to its start location. If your character mini is ever knocked down, moved, or touched by a rolling fireball, or any other game piece as a result of a rolling fireball, you've been fireballed. Put your character mini on its side in the corresponding smolder pit. Scripting in Tabletop Simulator will put your mini in the right pit, but if you happen to have a physical copy, refer to the chart and diagram on pages 10 and 11 of the rulebook. If you have the jewel in your possession when you're fireballed, place it on the rock chip trail space next to your smolder pit. It is now unowned, and the first player to get to it claims it. On your first turn after being fireballed, you spend the whole turn standing your character mini upright. No rolling, no moving, no playing cards. On the following turn, roll the die and move onto the trail, starting with the rock chip space. If you get fireballed on a bridge, you go to the water penalty area. You don't have to skip your next turn, but you'll have to climb your way back up to the path. If you have the jewel when you're fireballed off a bridge, the jewel is dropped onto the bridge you fell off of. If you land on one of the dark trail spaces, as in end your movement here, not just pass by the space, draw a card from the deck and add it to your hand. Note, the hand size limit in this game is 4, and if your hand is already full, you don't draw. If you land on or pass Witchlord's Step, collect 1 magic charm token from the ruin. You can trade a magic charm in at any point during your turn for a full hand of cards, but each player can only claim 1 magic charm per game. There are also 6 numbered caves on the game board. If you take a path leading to one of these spaces, as soon as your character mini touches it, forfeit any leftover movement from your die roll for that turn, then roll the die again. Move your character mini to the cave with the matching number. If that cave is already occupied by another character, you stay put. And if you roll a 1, after moving to the appropriate cave, you roll a fireball. If you're on a cave at the start of a turn, before rolling for movement, announce whether you're rolling to move along the path or rolling to go back into the caves. If, in the process of moving, you cross an unoccupied bridge, your movement stops on the bridge, even if you haven't used up all of your movement. If another player's mini is already on the bridge, though, you don't have to stop moving. Make sure you step on their head on your way to victory. If the jewel is still sitting at the top of the mountain, you'll have to get to VUL-KAR Point to pick it up. You don't have to land on this space by exact count, but your movement stops there for this turn. Take the jewel off the game board and put it in front of you. When you claim the jewel from VUL-KAR, you get a big bonus. Draw up to a full hand of cards, roll any fireball, and take 3 full turns before play proceeds to the next player. If you happen to have the jewel and a magic charm token, you can snap them together. Until you either trade in the magic charm or lose the jewel, no opponent can play a take 1 card from any opponent card on you. And if you pass by the player who happens to have the jewel in their possession, you steal it from them. Now run as fast as your die rolls can take you. Most cards can be played at any time, whether on your turn or someone else's. There aren't a whole lot of different types of cards, and most of them are not super self-explanatory, so we'll go over the options here. Play this card at any time to immediately roll a fireball. Play this card when an opponent tries to steal the jewel from you. They keep moving, you keep the jewel. This one actually is pretty self-explanatory. Use this to stop any fireball roll at any time, whether prompted by a card or a roll of 1 by yourself or an opponent. Play this for yourself or an opponent to re-roll, negating any effect of the initial roll, including a fireball. Also self-explanatory. Play this at any time to draw a card at random from another player's hand. Just remember, if they have the jewel and a magic charm, they're immune. Play this one on your own turn to skip the die roll and move that many spaces, or on an opponent's turn to force them to move that many spaces instead of rolling. Play this one at any time during an opponent's turn to move them backward that many spaces. If they're about to roll, they move the opposite direction from which they're headed first. If they've already rolled, they finish moving, then go back the way they came the number of spaces indicated on the card. You can't use this to move a player out of a cave, smolder pit, or the water penalty area, but you can use it to make them stop on a bridge. Play this one before a roll to double the value, on your turn or an opponent's. The player who manages to claim the jewel and take it to the dock is the winner. And that's how you play the 1986 classic, Fireball Island. Hey there, my name's Kyle McCarlin. I'm a voice actor by trade. You may have heard me as one of these guys. But I'm here to talk to you now about one of my favorite hobbies, board games. I love them. If you like board games, you should check out The Board and Barrel every Sunday night at 7:30 Pacific on twitch.tv/Kyle McCarlin, where me and my buddies play board games. We also give you guys a chance to help us or hurt us, depending on how you feel, with our Buff and Nerf house rules. And we have virtual bingo cards you can fill out while you're watching the show. It's a good time. Hope to see you there.